Welcome, everyone, to StoryOrbitEN, the podcast where we teach English in the most fun and casual way possible. I am Jessica, and I am so happy to be here today.
And I am Tom, always ready to make English learning a bit less scary and a lot more enjoyable. Today's episode is all about asking for directions, something that sounds simple but actually causes a lot of confusion.
Oh, totally, Tom. Asking for directions is one of those things that makes travelers nervous. Imagine you are in a new city, you don't speak the language very well, and you just want to find the nearest bathroom. It can feel like a nightmare.
A nightmare and an adventure at the same time. But also, asking for directions is one of the most useful situations to practice English. Because even if you never travel to an English-speaking country, you might still meet tourists in your city who need help.
That's true. And today we are going to help our listeners not only understand the phrases, but also use them naturally. We'll explain vocabulary, grammar, expressions, everything.
Let's start with the most basic question. You're lost. You need to know where to go. What do you ask? The classic one is, how do I get to, for example, how do I get to the bank?
Right? How do I get to the bank? And let's explain the structure. We start with how, which is asking about the way, the manner. Then do I get, which means how can I arrive? And then the place. So how do I get to the supermarket? How do I get to the library?
Notice that we always say to plus the place. You can't say how do I get the bank? That would sound like you were getting the bank itself, like taking it home. So always, how do I get to?
Let's give some examples. How do I get to the train station? How do I get to the nearest hospital? How do I get to the park? All of these are correct.
And people might answer with imperatives. Imperatives are those commands like go, turn, continue. For example, go straight for 2 blocks, then turn left at the corner.
Exactly. When someone is giving you directions, they usually don't say, you will go straight. They just say, go straight. That's the imperative form.
Let's explain what block means because many English learners get confused. A block is basically the space between 2 streets. Imagine you are walking, you see one street crossing another, and then the next crossing street. The part in between is 1 block.
So someone says, go 2 blocks. It means walk straight, cross 2 intersections, and then you will be there. But not all countries use the word block. Some might just say walk for 5 minutes or keep going until the traffic light.
Yes, and speaking of traffic lights, you can hear instructions like turn right at the light. That means when you reach the traffic light, you have to turn right. The word light here is short for traffic light.
Let's role play. Tom, imagine I am the tourist and I ask you, how do I get to the museum?
All right, I would say go straight on Main Street, take the second right, and you will see the museum on the other side of the park.
Very nice. Now let's explain some of those expressions. You said go straight on. That means keep walking without turning left or right. Then you said, take the second right. That means you pass the first street on your right side, and then at the second street, you turn.
And I also said, on the other side of the park. The other side means opposite. If the park is in front of you, the museum is not this side, it is the opposite side.
Perfect. Another phrase people often use is follow the signs for, like follow the signs for the airport. That means just look at the road signs and go in the direction they show.
That's useful when driving. And when walking, you might hear, continue straight on. That's basically the same as go straight.
By the way, one small but important thing. When someone gives you directions, you might want to confirm you understood. You can say, got it, or I understand. These are short ways to say you understood the instructions.
Let's explain. Got it. It's very common in English conversation. It literally means I have received the information. Example. Someone tells you the meeting is at 3. You say, got it. Someone says turn left at the stop sign. You say, got it.
And the opposite question is, do you understand? That's used when the person wants to confirm if you really understood. Go straight, then take the third left. Do you understand?
Some people say, is it clear? But do you understand is the most basic and safe option.
Now let's bring in a funny example. Imagine, Tom, you're in New York and you ask someone, how do I get to Times Square? What do you think would happen?
They would probably laugh at me and say, just follow the crowd, because Times Square is so famous and full of lights that it is hard to miss.
Exactly. But in English, if they gave you real directions, they might say, go straight for 3 blocks, turn right at 7th Avenue, and you will see it on your left.
Notice how the prepositions change. On your left, on your right, not in your left, or at your left, always on.
Yes, it will be on your left. That means when you are walking, the place will appear on the left side of your body. Same for on your right.
Let's explain. Is it far and is it close? These are great short questions. You can ask, is the bank far from here? That means, is the distance big? And is it close? Means, is the distance small?
Another variation is, how far is it? Example, how far is the supermarket from here? And you could answer, it's about 10 minutes on foot, or it's 5 minutes by car.
Listeners should notice the difference between far and close. They are opposites. Far means a large distance. Close means a small distance. Example, my house is close to the school versus my house is far from the airport.
Now I want to explain at the corner. If someone says, turn right at the corner, they mean when you reach the place where 2 streets meet. That is the corner.
And at the stop sign, it's similar. A stop sign is the red octagon sign that says stop. If someone says turn left at the stop sign, that means when you reach that sign, turn left.
Perfect. Let's do another role play. This time I will give you the directions. You ask me.
All right, excuse me, Jessica. Could you please give me directions to the nearest bookstore?
Sure. Go straight for 1 block, then turn right. Walk past the coffee shop and you will see the bookstore opposite the train station.
Opposite means facing each other. The bookstore is on one side of the street. The train station is on the other side.
Exactly. Opposite is not the same as next to. Next to means beside, very close, touching, or almost touching. For example, the pharmacy is next to the bank.
And opposite means across the street from it. For example, the park is opposite the church.
Good. Now, one funny situation I had once. I asked someone in London, how do I get to Oxford Street? And the person gave me so many instructions that I forgot everything after the second step.
That's a real problem. Directions can be too long. That's why in English, we often repeat to confirm. You can say, so I go straight, then turn left at the corner, right?
That's a good strategy. Repeat the first steps to make sure you understood. And then if you forget the rest, you can always ask another person later.
Exactly. And don't be shy about asking. People are usually happy to help. You can start with, excuse me, could you please give me directions to? It sounds polite and friendly.
Yes, politeness matters. If you just say, where's the bank? It might sound a bit rude. But if you say, excuse me, could you please tell me where the bank is? It's much nicer.
Listeners, notice the grammar there. We often use, could you please tell me where the bank is? The verb is goes at the end because it's an indirect question.
Let's compare. Direct question, where's the bank? Indirect question, could you tell me where the bank is? See how the word order changes.
And indirect questions are considered more polite. That's why you hear them often when asking strangers.
Now, Tom, let's add transportation directions. Imagine someone wants to know how to use the subway.
I would say, get on the subway at 12th Avenue and get off at Whitman Street. Get on means enter the vehicle. Get off means leave the vehicle. Example, get on a bus at Central Station, get off at the airport stop.
And sometimes people say, take bus number 45. That means use that bus. Example, take bus 12 to the museum.
Let's explain. Follow the signs. In airports, for example, you see signs everywhere saying baggage claim, exit, restrooms. So if someone says follow the signs for the exhibition center, it means look for the signs with those words and walk in that direction.
Very useful. Now let's add a bit of humor. Tom, imagine you are giving me directions, but you make them too complicated.
All right, Jessica, to reach the pizza restaurant, first walk straight for 3 blocks, then turn left, then right, then left again. Cross the river, climb the small mountain, and when you see the old man with the dog, ask him where the restaurant is.
That is the worst set of directions ever. And this is why it is important to keep directions short and clear. Otherwise, the poor tourist will never eat pizza.
Exactly. And a good tip is to use landmarks. A landmark is something easy to see, like a statue, a big building, a park. Example, turn right after the church, or go straight until you reach the fountain.
Vocabulary moment. Until means continue up to a point in time or place. Example, wait until 5 o'clock or walk until the park.
Very nice. So indirections until helps show when to stop walking straight and start turning.
Another question people ask is, where is the nearest gas station? Nearest means the one closest to here.
Yes, not the biggest, not the cheapest, just the one with the shortest distance. You can also say, where is the closest supermarket?
Now, Tom, let's quickly practice. If I ask you, how do I get to the library? What would you say?
Go straight for 2 blocks, turn left at the traffic light, and the library will be on your right.
Perfect. And if I ask, is it far?
No, it's close. It's only about a 5-minute walk.
Very good. Listeners, did you notice how natural that sounded?
And that's what we want. Not to memorize robots, but to actually sound natural when asking and answering.
You know, Tom, now that we are talking about directions, I have to confess something very embarrassing that happened to me once.
Oh, really? I am already excited. Tell me, Jessica, what happened?
Well, I was in Rome, and I was trying to find the Colosseum. Everyone knows the Colosseum. It is huge, but somehow I still got lost. I stopped a man and asked, "Excuse me, could you please tell me where the Colosseum is?" He smiled and just pointed straight behind me. I had been walking with the giant Colosseum literally right there in the background.
That is brilliant. So you asked for directions to a place you could actually see.
Exactly, and people around me laughed a little, which made me so embarrassed. But you know what? It became a great memory and a story to share. And the good thing is, when I tell my students about it, they remember the phrase, "Excuse me, could you please tell me?"
That is a perfect example of turning embarrassment into learning. I have a story too, from when I was in Paris. I was looking for a small art museum, and I thought I was being very clever with my French, but I mixed up the words. Instead of asking for musée, which means museum, I accidentally asked for mousse, which is like chocolate mousse, a dessert.
No way. So you were basically going around Paris asking, "Where is the chocolate mousse?"
Yes, exactly. People looked at me like I was crazy. Some even gave me directions to bakeries instead of the museum. And I was following them thinking, why are there cakes everywhere and no museum?
That is hilarious. And here's a little teaching moment for our listeners. Notice the importance of one letter. Museum in English, musée in French. But mousse is dessert. In English too, we say chocolate mousse. That is why pronunciation and vocabulary matter so much.
True. And speaking of desserts, once in London, I wanted to ask a woman how to get to the British Library. I confidently said, "How do I get to the library?" But the problem was, I had stopped her right in front of the library entrance. She pointed at the big sign above my head and said, "You mean this one?"
Oh, Tom, you too? That is like my Colosseum story. You know what? Maybe we should start a club for people who ask directions to buildings they are literally standing in front of.
Yes, we can call it the Lost But Already There Club. Members get free maps that they never use.
And another time, I was in Madrid. I wanted to find the metro. I asked a kind older lady, "Excuse me, is the metro far?" She answered so quickly in Spanish that I only caught half of it. I panicked and just kept nodding, saying, got it, got it." But in reality, I didn't understand anything. I walked in the exact opposite direction and ended up at a market instead.
At least you found food. That is never a bad result. And listeners, notice Jessica says she just kept saying, "Got it." That's a common thing people do when they don't understand. But sometimes it leads to funny mistakes. It's always better to ask again, like, "Sorry, could you repeat that, please?"
Yes, that's a good phrase. Could you repeat that, please? Simple, polite, and it saves you from getting completely lost.
Do you want to hear my most embarrassing one?
Of course. Tell me about it.
I was in New York and I wanted to go to the Empire State Building. So I asked the police officer, "How do I get to the Empire State?" But I was nervous, so I accidentally said, "How do I get to the Vampire State?"
No way. Vampire State?
Yes. He started laughing so much. He says, "Son, we don't have vampires here, but if you go 2 blocks that way, you'll find the Empire State Building." And I was so red in the face. But now every time I teach, "How do I get to?" I tell students my vampire mistake and they never forget it.
That is the best. And again, it shows that mistakes are not tragedies. They are opportunities to laugh and remember.
Exactly. So listeners, don't worry if you mess up when asking for directions. People are usually kind And even if you say something silly like vampire instead of empire, you'll probably make someone's day a little funnier.
And you'll walk away with a good story to tell. To finish, let's remind people of the key phrases. How do I get to go straight, turn left, turn right? It will be on your left. It's opposite the station. Is it far? Where is the nearest?
And of course, polite beginnings like, excuse me, could you please? That makes all the difference.
Well, Tom, I think our listeners now will never get lost again. Or if they do, at least they will enjoy the adventure in English.
And maybe end up in a pizza restaurant by accident, which is always a good outcome.
That's true. This has been Story Orbit N, and today we explored the funny, useful, and sometimes confusing world of asking for directions.
Thank you for listening, everyone. Keep practicing, keep asking questions, and don't be afraid to get a little lost sometimes.
See you next time.
Goodbye, everyone.